After a very, very, very long wait, the first episode of Dragon Ball Daima has finally arrived. And as we expected, that bad boy was packed to the brim with incredible animation, art direction, color work, compositing, and interesting writing. But everyone's already talking about that stuff, so let's talk about what no one seems to be talking about right now. The music. Now, that might seem like an overly broad topic, and it certainly is, but if it does interest you at all, then boy, are you in the right place, because after watching the first episode, I dove into the new composer. Oh, who am I kidding? I am way out of my depth here. I don't know anything about music. Tyson, do you want to take this one?
Wait, what am I doing here? I'm not Mark. I'm just one of his editors and writers. Why are you hearing my voice instead of his? Oh my God. I'm totally not Mark. Anyways, once the first episode came out, I did my music nerd thing and dove deep into the past of this new composer, and what I found was very, very different from what I was expecting. Okay, whatever, enough intro, let's do this. So yeah, you heard me right, Daima has brought with it a completely new composer for the series. Some were expecting Dragon Ball Kai Super and Broly composer Norihito Sumitomo to reprise his role. And some were hoping for Heroes composer Yuya Mori to graduate from fake promotional anime to actually real anime. But alas, neither was the case. Introducing Kosuke Yamashita. Right out of the gate, I want to start with first impressions. What did I think of the music in episode 1? Well, to be honest, I wasn't exactly wowed. I might be alone in this, but none of it really particularly caught my ear. It certainly wasn't bad, just to be clear, but nothing really jumped out at me either. But, if you like the music for the first episode, chill, don't click away, it's all good, because there is way more to this guy than what we've heard so far in episode 1. Because, after all, we have only heard one episode of his score so far. We certainly cannot get an idea of what this guy sounds like from that alone. And so the real fun begins. If we can't yet look forward to future episodes, we have to look back to the past. So Yamashita has been composing for anime, TV shows, and movies for a long while now. His first composing credit is all the way back in the year 1996, roughly 40 years before most of you were born, and has been cranking them out ever since. A lot of his previous work revolves around Sentai shows, as well as more traditional anime like Xenosaga and Digimon Fusion. But honestly, I don't really care about a history lesson because none of that really tells you the most important thing. How does he sound? What is his sound? So, like I always do when we get new composers, I sat down, rounded up his entire discography, and started listening. What did I find? Well, strap in and grab your special sock because you're going to need it for this one. Yes, sub-enjoyers and OG Dragon Ball fans alike, you read that section title correctly. Pretty much the second I began diving into his discography, it became perfectly clear why this guy landed the gig. Like, for example, let's listen to this track from Nurse Witch Komugi-chan R. Okay, very cool series title. Anyways, let's listen to this track that he composed for this series. For like big Dragon Ball loyals, this will kind of be old news, but just to catch others up, Shunsuke Kikuchi was the composer for all of Dragon Ball's original run. That's right, from Bulma firing a Glock at a toddler all the way to Goku's final Genki-Dama against Buu, Kikuchi was cranking out bangers for the whole thing. Even if you're a dubby, you've definitely heard his work in OG Dragon Ball. Kikuchi was known for a very specific style. He has a very recognizable approach and used a lot of the same instrumentation throughout his career, especially in Dragon Ball. And this new Yamashita fella, there's a lot of similarities to find here. Not only in terms of style, but also with those instrumentations. When I initially stumbled upon that track that I just played, I had to like double take. We've got the funky 80s rhythm guitar. We have cheeky little plunger mute trumpets. And most perplexingly, we have that like, okay, I don't know what it's called. If I was less lazy, I would go over to my keyboard and like find a sound that sounds like that. But this, which to be clear is all over the Kikuchi score. It's even in the little episode bumpers. And don't get confused here, it's not just this track that shares a lot of similarities with Kikuchi in terms of instrumentation and style. It's in a fair bit of his previous work. By now, there should be a different track playing, and you'll hear some other similar Kikuchi sounds if you're familiar. Even as I speak in the background, you're hearing wood blocks and weiros. If you don't know what a weiro is, that's this little thing. Anyways, all this is to say that I think there's a very reasonable chance that Yamashita was hired in part because he very much has similar approaches to Kikuchi, who is beloved by both Japanese Dragon Ball fans and just Dragon Ball fans across the world alike. And this is very good news, because Kikuchi is awesome. However, this is not the only sort of common through line I found going through his discography, and the next through line is one that definitely makes a lot of sense given the kind of structure of Daima. And that is... If there's any one specific vibe that I've got from all of the Daima trailers and just everything we've got from it so far, it's a very strong, like, JRPG vibe. Like, obviously Dragon Ball has kind of always been about adventuring, and even GT kind of harkened back to that. But Daima kind of seems like a step above, even further into straight-up JRPG. And boy, does Yamashita love doing JRPG-sounding music. Even in animes that aren't related to JRPGs in the slightest. You can really sort of get a feel for that in the music that's playing in the background right now. Which, by the way, I just want to say, any music that you're hearing in the background of this video that I didn't specifically label as someone else is done by Yamashita. Now, for me personally, the thing about this that interests me, other than the fact that it's obviously a good fit for something like Daima, is that, like, the JRPG style battle music that Yamashita tends to write is really sick. Like, I don't know about you, but can you imagine Goku, or I guess little tiny mini Goku, duking it out with some weird JRPG-looking bad guy to this music? Anyways, my deep dive into this guy's backlog yielded a lot more than just finding out that he was Kikuchi 2 Electric Boogaloo. In fact, it yielded that he is strikingly similar in some ways to another old Dragon Ball composer. Aha, I got you there. It was two composers. No, but really though, this is what caught my attention with this guy and made me want to make this video. Because obviously finding out that Daima's new composer is basically Kikuchi reborn a little bit is crazy enough to begin with. But the further I dug, the more I realized that he's sort of an amalgamation of like the big three Dragon Ball composers. Like, you look at his work on those Sentai shows I mentioned earlier, and you find tracks like this. And it just brings you straight back to Dragon Ball Kai's Yamamoto score. Very orchestral, a lot of like timpanis or cellos. I honestly think if you showed this to the average Dragon Ball Kai viewer, they would probably think that it's from the show, just without noticing it. Or even some of his more slice of life stuff does kind of sound like Yamamoto's score, maybe mixed a little bit with Kikuchi. But again, the fun doesn't stop there because there's a lot of other tracks in his backlog that remind me of Sumitomo's Dragon Ball Super score. Or at least like the back half of it, like the Tournament of Power on into Broly, not so much the before stuff. Look, cut Sumitomo a break. He made basically all of his music in Kai and the first half of Super in like 5 seconds. That show was insane. Take this upcoming track, for instance, which uses so many of Sumitomo's favorite sorts of instrumentations and vibes. From the horns, to the swelling strings, to the, like, weirdly identical guitar tone. I really think that you could take this clip that I'm about to play and slide it into the Tournament of Power and no one would notice. Actually, let's do that because that sounds like a nice change of pace.
And I absolutely refuse to go through that again! I cannot! I will not!
That power is ferocious, like a firestorm! Jiren's energy is climbing even higher! What the hell is going on down there?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's pretty convincing and definitely very evocative of Sumitomo, if maybe mixed a little bit with Yamamoto. I don't know. It's kind of hard to quantify these sort of things, but either way, I feel like you're kind of getting the point. Which is that the further that I dove into this guy's backlog, listened to track after track after track after track after track, I could keep going, the more it really felt like Yamashita is this weird amalgamation of everything that's come before in Dragon Ball. And as someone who loves every single one of those composers in their own way, that like really, really excites me. So, with that all in mind, I think you guys at least have a little bit of an idea of what this guy has sounded like in his previous works. Obviously, I can't show you everything, but you've heard a decent bit. We can move on to kind of my final question here, which is... Yeah, so I really didn't plan on making this video. I started looking into Yamashita because it's just kind of something that I'm interested in and was just doing it on my own time. And like I said, my first impression of the guy really wasn't particularly grand, at least from the first episode. But the more I dug, the more it makes me wonder what we're going to see next from him. Because this first episode was really more of a like mysterious prologue than it was a first episode. And as such, I could see how some of this music was a little bit more subdued and nothing particularly crazy yet. I mean, the most notable musical moment in the entire episode is the OP drop at the end, which, by the way, a little disturbing, but funny. But I get what they were going for, but disturbing. But now that I've gone through all of his music and really got an idea for his style, a style that I think I really, really like, I cannot wait to see what he does next for this series. I've really converted my view on this guy from apathetic to starting basically like a personal stock watch on his efforts in Daima. If he goes where I think he will go, based upon all the work that he's done in the past, I think that we are in for a real treat that might win over basically every single Dragon Ball fan in existence. I guess, except for the people who are like really hard Faulkner only guys, like the ones that don't even like Sumitomo. And look, don't come for me. I love the Faulkner score too. I'm playing both sides, so I come out on top. But like, other than those guys, I really think that Yamashita might, if this goes the way that it could go, win over the hearts and minds of pretty much every Dragon Ball fan. However, there's a chance that for some reason, Yamashita was handed down some sort of directorial input that led to the more subdued music that we heard in the first episode, and as a result, we will continue to kind of hear that approach throughout the series. If that's the case, that won't be the end of the world. Like I said, there was nothing bad in the first episode, but I will be bummed. Because based on everything you guys have heard in this video, hopefully it's clear that this Daima score could be really, really great. Anyways, for real though, I really did love the first episode of Daima, and I really am excited to see where Yamashita's score for this series goes. Hopefully I've conveyed his style well enough that you guys are just as excited as I am, so I guess we will just all tune in for episode 2 and find out together. Or maybe you're watching this video after the series is already completed and this context seems strange. Hello, viewer from the future. Please send insider future information on what stocks to invest in. I'm not a stock guy, but I am poor. But in any case, I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know it's kind of a weird, different format from the usual TNM videos, but if you did like it or want to hear more of Mark's thoughts on Daima, be sure to tune into our weekly Daima streams / live show / podcast that we're doing every week now, because Mark, myself, and Anime AJ all get together and talk about the episode that just aired that week. Or if you're a functioning adult that actually has work on Fridays, we now have a second channel where we upload the VODs of those streams. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please let us know, because obviously this is kind of a new thing, hearing somebody's voice that isn't Mark's. Please be nice to me in the comments, or I will cry. And until then, I haven't been Mark, and thanks for watching.